I'm Governor Eric Holcomb. Thank you to the Jewish Federation of Fort Wayne for the privilege to join you virtually and commemorate this Holocaust Remembrance Day. A day where younger generations learn and older generations are reminded of the power of hope, healing, respect, and responsibility. For a century now, your organization has been largely responsible for educating the community. That work is vital to helping others understand the terrible impact the Holocaust had on our world. And while a global pandemic has made it difficult to gather in person to tell those stories, even though we are physically apart, our resolve to honor the memory of both the survivors and those who lost their lives has never been stronger. Though many survivors are no longer able to tell their stories, we will do our best to ensure that their memories will live on forever. So, thank you again for the work you do and the positive impact you're having on our state. Together, let's continue to spread peace, respect, and kindness throughout Indiana.
Hello, I'm Mayor Tom Henry. Today I'd like to take a few minutes to talk to you about our need to reflect on a certain time in history and take pause in knowing that we cannot forget the occurrences of yesteryear that put us where we are today. It's easy, because of all of the issues that confront us today, to put those thoughts aside. But we can't forget. Because of that, I'd like to read to you a proclamation today. Whereas the Holocaust occurred from 1933 to 1945 in Europe and resulted in the death of more than 5 million Jews and millions of other victims. And whereas the history of the Holocaust offers an opportunity to reflect on the moral responsibilities of individuals, societies, and governments. And whereas citizens of Fort Wayne should always remember the dreadful events of the Holocaust and remain vigilant against hatred, persecution, and tyranny. And whereas these days of remembrance have been set aside for the residents of Fort Wayne to remember the victims of the Holocaust, as well as reflect. Now therefore I, Thomas Henry, Mayor of the City of Fort Wayne, do hereby proclaim April 8th, 2021 as HaShoah Commemoration Day in Fort Wayne, and I encourage all citizens to duly note this occasion. Thank you.
children cry,
after the horror. Hold fast to the breath of life. Hold fast to the song of life. Hold fast to the soul of life. This is our sacred duty, God of old, as survivors, as witnesses, as voices of history and truth. Why else did we live when so many have died? Why else do we stand when so many have been put to rest? Why else do we hope and yearn when so many were silent? Hold fast to awe and wonder. Hold fast to radiance and life. Hold fast to mystery and majesty. This is our sacred duty, God of old, as mourners, as testimony to horror and destruction. What else remains? What else endures? What more can you ask of us but to choose life in the shadow of death? On behalf of the Jewish Federation of Fort Wayne and our co-religionists at Temple Achdus V'Shalom, I'm pleased to welcome you to the 2021 Yom HaShoah commemoration for the 6 million. Today, this time of year brings with it a complexity of emotions. On Yom HaShoah, we honor the lives and memories of those who were murdered at the hands of Nazi Germany, while at the same time we mourn those who most recently lost their lives to anti-Semitism, hatred, and bigotry. The book of Ecclesiastes reminds us that there is a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to keep silent and a time to speak. While we know that while we do not have the ability to change the past, we can change the future, and by working together, each of us has an opportunity to recognize that while the world is innately good, its creator purposefully left room for us to improve upon his work and perform Tikkun Olam, the improvement of the world.
How can we fathom this enormity of loss? Our hearts try to gather in the countless faces. You, Holy One, summon each, images burned in your remembrance. Help us to recall. Help us to recall their lives and their destruction. Bring us to your sacred place of memory, not only to bear witness, but to reassemble faith, to recover the defiled and make it holy. These slender frames are a promise and a charge, calling us to honor and to imitate righteousness. These flames illuminate truth's horror and hope's future. Your searing reminder, do not forget. Let us bless you, Holy One, touching fire to wick 6 candles for the lost Jewish communities, for the righteous among the nations, for the victim groups represented by badges of hate, for the survivors, for the resistors and the liberators, and for future generations. Let us bless you, Holy One, for you dry our tears. You comfort martyred souls. You bring us shalom.
Ashrei hagafur shenisraf v'hitzit lahavot. Ashrei halhava shebara b'sitrei levavot. Ashrei halvavot sheyadu lachdol bechavod. Ashrei hagafur shenisraf v'hitzit lahavot. As we look at these lights, try to imagine 6 million candles, each one with the name of another Jew. Each one would signify a unique and precious soul. A soul who struggled and had hope, who was part of a family, an orphan, a widow, or a widower. They worked, studied, took walks, the ordinary things of life. They all were part of the Jewish people.
Blessed is the match consumed in kindling flame. Blessed is the flame that burns in the heart's secret places. Blessed is the heart that knows for honor's sake to stop beating. Blessed is the match consumed in kindling flame. By Hannah Sanish. Each one suffered. Each and every one was murdered. They are lost forever, their light extinguished. We are the light now. Only by our remembering can they live again in our hearts and minds.
You who live secure in your warm houses, who return at evening to find hot food and friendly faces, consider whether this is a man who labors in the mud, who knows no peace, who fights for a crust of bread, who dies at a yes or a no. Consider whether this is a woman without hair or name, with no more strength to remember, eyes empty and womb cold as a frog in winter. Consider that this has been. I commend these words to you. Engrave them on your hearts. When you are in your house, when you walk on your way, when you go to bed, when you rise, repeat them to your children, or may your house crumble, disease render you powerless, your offspring avert their faces from you.
El Malei Rachamim, which means God full of compassion, is a prayer for the departed that asks for comfort and everlasting care of the deceased. It is recited at funerals, but different versions exist for different moments. I will recite the version of El Malei Rachamim for the Shoah, which is translated into English this way. Fully compassionate God on high, to our 6 million brothers and sisters murdered because they were Jews, grant clear and certain rest with you in the lofty heights of the sacred and pure, whose brightness shines like the very glow of heaven. Source of mercy, forever enfold them in the embrace of your wings. Secure their souls in eternity. Adonai, they are yours. They will rest in peace. El Malei Rachamim shochen baromim Hamse menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashechina B'malot kedoshim utorim kezohar harakia mazrim Et nishmot 6 million achinu ve'achyoteinu Shenehegru al kiddush Hashem Ba'al harachamim yastirem beseter kanfav le'olamim V'yitzrom ditzror hachayim et nishmatam Adonai hu nachaltam ve'achnu b'shalom al mishkavam Amen. Yom HaShoah, this day of Holocaust remembrance, is a day of existential grief for the Jewish people, for all who suffered and who perished in the camps and ghettos, and for all humanity. We remember this unfathomable loss to ensure that it never happens again. But we also remember that God is with us even in the moments of our greatest pain and anguish. I'd like to share a poem, a prayer, written by Stacy Zizuk Robinson, whose recent death makes these words all the more poignant. To the God of weariness and pain, who spoke and sang and breathed in spices and the dust that you are and to which you will return, you who spoke and sang and breathed the name of God. To this glorious God of grief and grace, who spoke, who broke, who breathed a song, we are song, and it is good. Sing and shout praise. The world is fire. The dust swirls. We skitter and sway, touching flame, touching light. We are light, and it is good. God, yes, it is good. To this great God of infinite rising, I sing your praise in light, in love, in grief and pain. In glorious exultation I rise, and your holy name is great.